Let's give a warm welcome to Kayla.
Hey. DL means down low. This is basically a man who is seen publicly as straight, identifies and acts straight, but secretly is attracted to or has sex with other men.
DL kind of came out of black communities to describe men who were cheating on women and having sex with men and exposing them to STIs because they weren't safe in their practices.
It does feel like DL men are just stuck in a phase of life that a lot of us have moved past.
It's called a closet. Welcome back to Just Press Play with Ellen Trey. We're here with our good friend and guest, Caleb, who was victimized by a not-so-nice Regina George at the local pub and hub, the Eagle.
Oh my God. I was not sure where we was going with that.
And you've been invited here today so we can get the lie detector test. No, just kidding. You've been invited here today to share with us your story.
What do you mean victimized at the Eagle? You might
That's what the script says. Has been personally
We got the
victimized.
receipts. Shima, read the text.
Trey, I really need you to do a podcast episode about the definition of DL at this point. There's this little twink, capital T, that I've seen at the Eagle getting passed around by multiple guys, and I got added to this Telegram group, and he's the and someone asked if he had a Twitter, and the host says, no, he's DL.
My question to you. This is the whole reason we're doing this episode.
You're the reason why we're here.
So there's a lot of things going on in there to me. Like, for one, you kind of insinuated that this was a white person or non-black person who was like claiming to be DL, or at least that's what I took away from it. And that gets into like, you know, other people co-opting like black language. And then there's also like the DL part of it in general, like general frustrations with people who are DL today still. Even everything we talked about in part one was like in our past. So like having, you know, to face people who are still living in our past essentially can be kind of frustrating. And then finally there's like the DL delusion of it all. Like, sis, not DL, not a DL comp dump. So I'm wondering, like, what part of this is the most frustrating to you?
How you gonna be a DL come down and inside a group text?
Well, yeah. So I think there's definitely like hundreds of guys in that chat. So his face is in it. And I don't know how regularly he frequents the Eagle, but it's like, if the whole community knows your tea, like what about that is down or low? You were,
because we're not even a part
you were
of the
mountain
group
high
text.
screaming it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if they self-describe as DL. That's how they were described. But either way, it's like at some point, I feel like if you are down low or discreet, what have you, you would think that would mean some level of discretion or like being sort of choosy with like how people know that about you. Because
get some regulars maybe.
yeah, I would think there would be some level of trust with whoever you're hooking up with, but it's interesting that that's not it. And I think that whole like the cum dumps situation reminded me of there are OnlyFans creators marketing themselves as DL, and I was like, but you're on the internet.
Right.
There's a whole algorithm to make sure you get seen more. So who are you down low from if this is public knowledge? And also, like, with the cum dump situation, now you're getting to the point where, like, the county, the government is likely to have you on a list somewhere as MSM, because that's pretty high risk. Like, there are things you can do to mitigate that, but to get access to DoxyPep and things like that, because they're not using condoms, like, you have to disclose to broader systems, which, you know, you got HIPAA. They're not gonna tell it to everybody what you're doing, but even still, that you're trusting that information to the state, to your community, to the internet. Like, you're not DL.
It's like you are less discreet and DL than some people I know who don't consider themselves DL.
It's that. Yeah. Words mean things.
Oh yeah, I do want to interject because I saw that you're wearing a thong.
Oh my God.
You like my voice?
Wait, is that too
Are
much?
you on?
Oh my God.
But
Oh my God.
this makes me so creepy. I'm like, oh, Caleb's wearing a jockstrap and I'm wearing panties. So what do y'all
Yeah,
think is
decidedly not DL behavior.
Oh no, this is a discreet to you. I just I want my cheeks to breathe while I wear these skin tight pants that are painted on. I thought sure I was selling trade when I got on.
Okay, sorry.
Oh
Go
my
ahead.
God. Okay, what is the superior underpant
For who?
for you?
Superior? Yours underwear. No, listen. I think the superior underwear would have to be like a boxer, like the H&M.
Really?
Not a boxer brief. Oh no, a boxer brief.
Yeah.
All of those
H&M
words
kind.
in the same sentence. H&M boxer superior. That is wild.
Well, like, listen, you girls are going out here spending $30 on your motherfucking underwear for one pair. I'm gonna pop my ass down to the H&M. I didn't say I was gonna buy no shirts. I didn't say I was gonna buy no jeans. I'm gonna get me a pair of like the gray boxers. They're nice and tight, and they make me feel like I don't know, Beyonce.
Boxer briefs.
Boxer briefs.
Okay, not the boxers that make you.
I wear the boxers at home, like during the winter when I'm like
Yeah.
feeling like my zhuzh on a Saturday.
Wow.
Got my tee and my oversized sweater. Why are you looking at me like that? And it has what's superior underwear for you?
It's the brief
Okay.
to me. But actually, I don't know. I guess that's part of why I asked, because I actually find all of them pretty uncomfortable.
You don't say boxer brief. I noticed. I shouldn't have said that.
That shit bunches up. A thong is up in your ass.
I
The
know
brief
that's right.
The brief is cutting. The jockstrap is cutting, and the boxers bunch up too. I'm like, there really is. None of them are like a great option for actually the purpose.
I think it depends on what you're doing that day. What phase is the moon in the sky? You know what I'm saying? Because if my breasts are big heaving bosoms and I really want to get into my femme slide it to the side fantasy, I will wear a thong.
Slide it. To
My
the
sister
side,
knows.
fantasy.
Slide it to the side. I like that.
I think boxer briefs and briefs are like what I want to wear if I just want support and like I am completely drained, empty from the weekend's festivities. Yeah, that's what I do when I'm like, okay, I just need to work today and forget about everything below the waist. But sometimes I just like to go commando.
Yeah, me too. Why am I wearing all these extra like? Especially because it's about to be hot outside. You gotta take the train. You gotta get upstairs, down the
Yeah,
stairs.
let them breathe.
Let them breathe.
Aerate.
Aerate.
That might be right. So the superior underpant is none. We've all been scammed.
Yeah,
for years.
we've all been
Okay.
scammed. We started off in civilization butt naked, and the rest is drag.
All right, let's keep it back on track. What do you think? I think a lot like DL, straight, like trade, whatever. All people who are like adjacent to homosexuality, but still like holding on to this like heteronormative identity, like get a lot of attention from gays. Like, what do you think? Where do you think that obsession sort of stems from?
I think like it's the fantasy of being the one to turn somebody, like having that power and being like irresistible in a way. I think is probably a big part of the appeal. And then like kind of what we were talking about with like what straight men or bi-curious men are risking when they go outside of like a heterosexual situation is like you're also worth the stigma that you aren't you aren't out to avoid, essentially. Like I don't know. It
really is more
feels
evidence
like-
to be like, I'm that bitch.
He's
Yeah.
like, he picked my faggot ass.
It's
pick
a power thing, but it's also like y'all will not get any of the power, especially the people that want to pursue a man in that situation and they'll never give anything up for you. And that's the dicey part.
That's delusional. I kind of like the ideology of you never coming back ever again.
Yeah, that as it should be. If you're going to have that interaction with someone who identifies as DL, especially,
Yeah.
that's the extent of it.
I don't want your baggage, your baby mama baggage.
Yeah. Well, what else?
Okay. I have the next question. Let me read it out loud, okay?
I love how I've become the professor of DL-ology.
What experiences have you had with someone who identifies as straight or bi-curious?
Oh my God. Okay, so this sounds toxic of me after what I just said, but it was never like he was closeted or identified as DL, but there was this guy, it was probably like summer of my sophomore year in college, and I got a summer job canvassing, and he was like one of the people that he was like the most senior in that canvassing office, and he was really hot. He was like...
When you say hot, can you give us some description?
Yeah, so he was tall, muscular, tatted. He had plugs in his ears, very tan, like Asian and white guy. He had like, I don't know, he had like the hot boy haircut of like 2015.
So the little side part with the...
Yeah, exactly. You know
which one. You know which one.
We're going to have to put up a picture. I don't.
Well, he doesn't even look like that anymore, which is crazy.
He got kids.
No, I think in my mind he's still hot, but now he's like kind of more like grungy skater vibes, which is an interesting switch. But in any case, it was like the whole summer of me lusting after him, but I knew he had a girlfriend. And so I just thought he was straight and no one had said anything otherwise until towards the end, like we started having more like outings after the end of the day, or like he was trying to get me to this party and I like I don't know why I couldn't go. I had like some family thing, but he's like, well, if you go, I'll go. Da, da, da. And he gave me a ride back to my car one time, which was only like a couple blocks. But while we were driving, he kept staring at me and I was like,
the gay stare.
Oh my
Not
God.
the gay stare.
that's peculiar. I would think you would normally be driving and looking at the road. I wonder what he was looking at.
Your big
at?
titties.
What?
And so, yeah, lots of gay giggles to be had on my end. I'm like, okay, well, bye. And then finally it culminated in the summer's over. We're no longer canvassing, and we find out that we're both going to Outside Lands, the music festival in San Francisco. And I remember we went to, I think this is really dating this because I'm pretty sure that we hooked up like during Disclosure. It was either Disclosure or Kanye West set. Oof. I know. And like we were just like shirtless and rubbing up against each other like platonically, but I kept on getting that look. And at one point he was just like, dude, would it be weird if I kissed you right now? And his girlfriend was there at that point. She was just right next to him. And without hesitation, I just like, and we started making out all hot and heavy. And it was like right before the Molly hit. And yeah, that was extremely
keep going.
hot.
Then
and
what
we all
happened?
started making out. And then after that set, we all went back to where they were staying. And so, yeah, that was like probably one of the hottest experiences I've ever had, but not because he was DL, but because it was a flirtation that had such a long buildup. And I don't think I've had like that much sexual frustration about a person for that long.
Since.
Wow.
Or ever. I don't know that I've actually got like the satisfaction of hooking up with, especially just that one time.
I've got follow-ups. What you do with that lady?
We did things.
Okay, you did stuff with that
I
lady.
learned that I like a little handful.
Of what?
breastitis.
Okay.
And I don't know. There's probably some oral things in there somewhere.
And do you think part of the enjoyment or the fantasy was that you had envisioned him as a mostly straight man up until it happened?
Admittedly, probably.
Yeah.
I think it was more because, like, again, he told me, he's like, I've never felt this way about a guy before. Like, I've never done this before. Like,
I love when they say that. I've never done this
no, because that could
before.
fully be a lie, but like, it felt genuine, and like even though it didn't happen again. Part of it was because it made his girlfriend feel a little insecure, because the next day there was still another, like, this was the second night of Outside Lands, not the last. So when I had tried to meet up with them again, he was telling me, like, I just need a little time with my girl. Like, she just wants to, you know, like, giving me hints that, like, they needed to just be a couple and not, you know, little weekend throuple situation. So...
Well, her loss for the second go around.
I mean, not really. She got everything she needed in that man, because I wasn't attracted to her, and I also like didn't really interact with her that much. He fucked her to sleep, and then after, exactly. I didn't get too into detail about other reasons this man was so hot, but he fucked her to sleep. And so we stayed up after she passed out, fooling around like late into the night. I don't know when we stopped, but it was very intense and beautiful.
Yeah. We can say things, I think.
Yeah, this is going on YouTube too, so I'm trying not to get y'all demonetized or whatever.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like, part of this conversation is, I think, a critique of DL culture, while at the same time being honest about the parts of it that we personally kind of like or are attracted to. Because, I don't know, it sounds almost like I'm listening to this story and I think about, like, straight men who I've had crushes on, and it almost sounded like a fairy tale, what you were describing. Like, having access to something that, actually getting the thing that you thought you couldn't have, being made to feel special, being like the chosen one. And it's like, the question for me is like, are like bi-curious straight DL men in any way sexy?
Yeah, most of them. The fuck?
I mean, well, I don't know, because we don't see like that many bi guys, because that as a sexual orientation, especially for men, is so questioned so much of the time. It's like, why even choose this to self-identify when I'm gonna have to deal with bullshit about it every time I open my mouth? So like, we don't really know.
Depends on
who's bi.
I feel like that
depends a lot of the
on
time
who they tell and who is like negating it. Because if someone tells me they're bi, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but it also depends on how many people they've like identified as bi to up into the point they get to you.
Okay.
Because after a while, it's just like, I'm not fighting that battle anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, this gets into another conversation about, like, literally most bisexual men I've ever met are so fucking gay, which is not right to say, but it's true. You're bisexual where?
Yeah. And I think, like, for my experience, like, I would say that I'm bi, but like,
wait, no, I'm kidding.
No, I know. I kind of I call myself like a Kinsey 5. Like, I'm mostly gay, but like, and I think part of that is being culturally gay, because it's like, I feel so much more free and comfortable not trying to like do any of the things that are associated with heterosexual courtship at all. So in that way, I'm just like, yeah, I don't need sex with women that bad to where I would do all the other things expected to have sex with women. But it is a shame. I sometimes do still get curious, but it's also another thing of like, how do I meet a woman in a way where I would be attracted? Because apps don't do it for me at all.
No. And I'm just gay. I have another question. Do you think that non-black men can be DL?
I mean, yeah, but again, I don't know. I just think it's really important to ground like that phrasing in its history, but like as far as in effect of like what being DL is and how DL men behave, like yeah, I think that can exist regardless of race. But just know your language history a little bit and understand why it came out of that particular context.
Do you feel like DL and the word discreet are they the same thing? DL and the street, just and for the streets.
No, I mean I think I was mentioning in the last episode, discreet is more like just being a little bit more exclusive with who has access to information about your sexual life and romantic life. So like I think there are also openly gay men who identify as discreet as there are people who are questioning or closeted. I think it's just like, how you choose to talk about it.
I mean, do you have strong feelings in general about, let's say, terms like DL or others that come from black culture being co-opted or used by other races and cultures?
Well, yeah, because it's a part of a broader thing of like, I don't know, black culture is American culture for sure. Like we drive so much of what pops in the mainstream media, but at the same time it's like we're never credited for it, and there's just kind of a lack of credit where credit is due. And also people start using it in ways that don't actually make sense anymore. So then we all have to come up with like new language. Like it's like kind of a cultural labor that gets put on black people to continue to innovate ways of expressing things, and especially things that are unique to our experience. So it's yeah, it's kind of annoying in that sense, but it's also not new, and it's something that like we've learned how to do for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't love that, but it is what it is.
Is DL or being DL homophobic?
It can be, especially like a lot of the time that well, I think of like the most toxic and typical depiction of DL that I can think of that like a lot of people will recognize is from Tyler Perry.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say the Boondocks for some
Which
reason.
one?
Oh, actually, that's
Like-
a good one too.
What is it? Thugnificent
Yeah,
and Gangstalicious?
Thugnificent. Yeah.
What y'all talking about, Tyler Perry, when she's like,
Oh, so you doing the
so
bending?
you doing the bending?
How do you marry a woman? Oh, so you doing the bending?
I don't wake up holding another man, walking down the street holding some man's hands. That's gay, okay? I'm just a man who enjoys having sex with another man, Joe. No attachments.
And of course, if you haven't seen that movie,
This was that's I'm not sure that's Tyler Perry. That's from For Color Girls. I thought he wrote that.
Oh, it was Lee Daniels. My bad.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you for the fact check.
Yes.
But yeah, For Color Girls, and this was when the woman in red, I believe. Yes, but like the character from the play, Janet Jackson is confronting her husband who has exposed her to HIV. So
I didn't know it was that.
Yeah, it's that.
Oh, you never seen the whole movie?
I've only seen that clip.
Oh,
Yeah,
girl, you gotta watch the whole
exactly.
Child,
movie.
she had reason to be distressed.
Exactly. So that's what
I thought she was just being
Gets left
homophobic.
out.
How you gonna let another man just bend you over?
And it's like, it's that balance of like, yes, she did have a right to be angry, but you should be angry at the behavior, not at the person for being queer. And like those two things get blurred when this person's way that they're exploring themselves is now putting your health and safety at risk in a way that is life-changing. Like,
Right.
I have a question. I was gonna write this down, but I didn't. Do you feel like DL men are as sexually health aware as gay men?
that's a great question. I mean,
And when I say sexual health, I mean like a standard getting tested every 3 months, understanding the difference between gonorrhea and chlamydia and their symptoms, like just like, basic knowledge. Do you feel like they have that in their wheelhouse?
Yeah, I don't have the data, but like in major cities, I feel like it's maybe a little bit more likely just because there's more like public health infrastructure to give people access to that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, how could they be? Like, where are they going where it's safe for them to talk about how they're hunching in the bushes and doing all sorts of other things because they can't just like go out and be openly seen with the people that they're fucking? Like,
Well, you don't gotta bring the person you're fucking to the doctor's office.
you know what I'm saying, but like, but I'm saying if they were open, then maybe they probably wouldn't have to have as many anonymous hookups.
It's so scary because like you can literally go to your general doctor and be like, "Hey, I want to get this done," but I guess you're not gonna tell them either if you're down low.
Yeah, if there's a shame there, like, why would you feel safe doing it in a medical context when in some areas, I mean, even in like San Francisco, New York, like people have to actively look for doctors that have expertise working with LGBTQI patients. Like, it's not a given that doctors don't have bias or that they know how to like support someone's needs in the queer community just because they have a medical degree.
But that's the point. That's the purpose. They're not. You don't have to identify as anything. You can really lie on the paper and say that you just have sex with women or whatever have you, and just get the test because anybody can get a disease, right? And a doctor is held by like HIPAA law. Who are you gonna tell? I would sue. I would be like, please tell somebody.
That's true. That's
money,
true.
child.
But doctors can like, they have their own reactions and can sort of like steer you in a way if they're like,
They're
or
like,
like
you don't need that.
ask follow up. Exactly.
Yeah, like you don't need that then. And that is.
We got a
practice.
producer note.
I was just going to point out that even if at baseline, if you identify as something, or even if you just say you have a certain behavior, there are medical professionals that are like, oh, okay, now maybe because this person says they're gay or sleeps with men, I'm going to suggest PrEP or doxypep or whatever. So if this person, even knowing that their provider isn't going to tell anyone, isn't comfortable saying those things, then they are missing out on opportunities to protect themselves and people around them just by being DL.
It also reminds me of being in the closet in college and being sexually active, being afraid to go to the clinic on campus, just being unaware of how all of that worked and not feeling like I could disclose certain things because I didn't want anyone to know. And adult men who are on the down low, like the mentality is almost to say, this doesn't actually exist. Like, this isn't who I am. This isn't my life. So therefore, I'm going to pretend like it's not even happening, which I feel like is part of the risk.
Yeah, definitely. When I used to do HIV testing for AHF, people would go by the van during the daytime. Like, everybody go by the van, but it would always be like, every now and then you would get some men back in, and they'd be really sketchy about it, but they would wait until nighttime. To like, we're almost about to leave. And they would hurry up and slam the door. I'm like, don't slam your hand in there. But it's like they didn't want anyone to see. Not to mention, the van did say HIV on the side, which I always was just like, what kind of fuckery
Now,
is
why?
this?
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, why are you yelling? No, everybody like went on the opposite side of the street. No one even wanted to like go by, especially in Harlem, because we'd always come up here and test in Harlem. People would literally avoid that van. I'd be like,
Well,
yeah.
you know, the other thing I've always thought about is how I don't want to get an HIV test at Pride, at the parade, or at the rally, because can you imagine getting that news in that setting? I mean, I guess you'd be surrounded by friends at least, but I've always thought like that's just, and I understand why. Like it is good. Like it's better to know, of course, but literally, it has never been like something I've even considered doing.
Yeah. I did one time at a fair. It was actually nerve-wracking. It is kind of like, I'm about to sit out here.
A moment of truth.
Yeah, but like, well, how am I going to, if it's bad, like, or if not bad, but if it's not what I expect it to be, do I go and pretend? Because I've had people, we're getting so off track, but I've had people like test outside of boxers and find out outside of the club. During RuPaul's Drag Race, this is the heightened part of like having fun and having a really good time. If you come back, I mean, 9 times out of 10, the few times it happened, like people were just like, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I said, it's a life-changing event regardless.
But we're also saying
it's like the more you do it, and like the more you're in touch with your sexual health practices, the safer you can feel a lot of the time. I know there are situations where people are put at risk without their consent.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why it's so important that we get rid of the stigma.
Yeah.
Is there an actual harm to this?
Yeah, I feel like this is all related to medically the harm, and we've talked a little bit about like socially what the harm is. I guess in your own words, how would you describe how everything we've talked about actually harms the LGBTQ community? Or even like gay men specifically?
We talked about a lot. I'm trying to like synthesize it a little bit. I mean, I think on the one part, like kind of fantasizing and fetishizing DL men is harmful for the fact that if that's always what you're chasing, you're never gonna end up with someone that is
that values you.
Yes, or that like is not going to require a ton of your emotional labor to be with.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, definitely other gay men require emotional labor for other reasons, but at least you're on the same page and you're not going to be, you know, a secret in their lives. So I think that's one major thing that's important. But also, like, from a safety aspect, like, do you know what's at stake for that person on the other end of being out of the closet? Like, how far would they go to stay in the closet? Because there's still stories that I see every now and again about, like, gay men being murdered by the men that they're with that are DL. So I mean, those are the big ones. Very, very.
Yeah. I do think that there is a certain level of privilege that we all have in that, I mean, I still ran away from home, basically, when I went to college. And even then, like, in a much more liberal place, like, I'm from Cincinnati. I went to school in Maryland. And it took me even, like, more than a year to even tell a soul that I was gay. And a lot of this is commentary on people who maybe just haven't gotten there yet. Like, do you think that there's a balance between, you know, making space for those people, even if it has a negative impact on people who are past it?
I think this takes me back to like differentiating like people who aren't out, because I think like for people who are questioning, who are discreet, like all that, like I have a lot more patience and grace for you. But if you have decided that like you are actively going to look down on the queer community or do things that are outright harmful for the queer community, I don't need to be in relationship with you kind of at all. But I do recognize that it is like privileged to like kind of expect everyone to be, you know, financially stable and not have to rely on other relationships with people who may be homophobic or just like, you know, we have networks of people that are supportive of us in who we are. But yeah, I don't know. I think we gotta just meet people in a place where they are actively at least trying to like make peace with who they are and with queerness in general. But if that's not there, that's not really your business, and maybe they should seek therapy.
Well,
Seek therapy.
period. Hey DL sisters, if you're out there,
And you've somehow watched this on the low.
come on out, sis. Come on out, sis.
Come on out.
Come on out, sis. I promise. It's brighter over here. That's a joke.
Yeah, we were really trying to have
It truly is. And your life will get dramatically better.
We got bitches.
And the promised land.
and you can be the bitch.
If you won't.
And let a man bend you over.
Thank you so much, Caleb, for coming and talking to us about DL men and all of the wonders that comes with them. And being so eloquently spoken, like the words you were using, the way you were using them.
Right. It was like giving DL guru.
I know. Like,
Which is so crazy because, like I said, I don't interact with those people, but like, or at least to my knowledge.
well, I mean, you serve it up nice and hot for us and really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Just Press Play with Elle
And Trey.
See you very, very soon.
And stop.